That was weird. I forgot there was that much dead space on the end of that. Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ, and welcome to the only place on the interwebs where we get to talk about science fiction, tabletop role playing games with me as your host. Thank you very much for being here. I see. I see a comment in the already. That's pretty hilarious. Saw a video and a discussion, and I thought we would bring it up here when it comes to game design. I forgot that Tuesdays and didn't forget. I overlooked the fact that Tuesdays and Thursdays is basically our Obsidian Star time to talk about the game being developed. And uh, here is the synopsis. Yeah. Well, he's back. If you didn't know, he's back. Not exactly in the same form. Things have changed. It's like dog years on the internet. So, but yeah, he's back. He's putting out videos and things. So here is the question, the thesis, the synopsis. So Questing Beast put out a video in response to an article and about a gentleman who mentioned that he's using 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons for his extremely yeah for his extremely narrative focused, emotionally intense game that he's going to air. And let's see if I can actually find the video. Well, I have it, and I actually put it in the I put the link in the doobly-doo down below. But let's see. Let's go find this, and I'm going to share it out a little bit. I don't want to get in trouble for actually sharing it out. But, so what does it say? Ooh. So the title is "You Shouldn't Use D&D for Narrative Campaigns," and the individual running a Worlds Beyond Number um, online game is saying that his contention was he wanted to use a game that didn't have mechanics for the narrative that he wanted, because the thing that he wanted rules for was the thing he wanted to overlook. I know this sounds kind of strange, but yeah. Yeah. And thank you very much, Drew. I didn't know that it was called the fruitful void. So in the gaming sphere, there's often discussion about, should we have a rule for the thing we are engaged in? Or another way to put it is, when designing a game, reward the behavior you want to see. And that's a very much a positive outlook for that. So an example would be that if you want to reward exploration, then there should be in the game rules and rewards for exploring distant places. Whereas in 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons, there are no penalty reward systems for exploration. There are no mechanized rewards or penalties for engaging in social interactions. It is based on and has continued the idea that to solve problems, you must hit things about the head and shoulders with blunt and sharp objects. Yeah, Horizon said the same thing. Yeah, just watched the Questing Beast video on that, and it was very interesting to see that mentality. I didn't know about the fruitful void, and now that I do, I know how to work with it. Yes, so extrapolating out the fruitful void, I would say that the OSR, the propensity for the OSR and the spreading the popularity of it, is embracing the fruitful void. So in the video, midway through the video, he talks about the designer of a game known as Mothership. And in Mothership, it is a horror game that is about you know, going on empty starships and habitats and running away from great horrible things, eldritch horrors out there in the world, whether they're science experiments or giant robots or whatever the case might be. But in a horror game, you most of the time you're like running, fleeing, cowering, hiding, but there are no stealth rules in the game. And designers and other people asked them, well, why don't you have stealth rules in your game about surviving horrors? Since this is a very common thing to hide and run away from and get away from horrible things that will murder, kill you. And the designer said he didn't want rules for it because that's where he wanted the gameplay to slow down, to have this back and forth open discussion about how the players do it. So it's not about grabbing dice and rolling. It's about, how are you hiding? What are you using to hide? What's hey, I want to jump into a locker. Well, the locker space is kind of small. I don't believe you're going to be able to fit in it with your spacesuit. Oh, I don't want to do that. Okay, well, I want to go into a back hatch into the HVAC system. And you're like, well, you could do that, but you're going to have to leave your equipment behind or push it in front of you or drag it, but you may make noise. And he wanted this back and forth where there are no rules, but the discussion slows down, and it is the bargaining that we have with our game masters. And that is the fruitful void in game design, that when there isn't a rule for it, that we stop to discuss it. Now, I get it. It's often a negative as well, because the negative of that is it may have nothing to do with the narrative, but it may have everything to do with, I know the key to unlock the secret to convincing my game master, which it may have nothing to do with the narrative, right? It may be that someone has a very forceful personality, or is very persuasive, or they happen to work in a field in which their expertise gives them an edge in the game, because they might have like an engineering degree, or they work in retail or something like that. And there's whatever the case may be, they may go, wait a minute, but in my job in real life, and they fill in the blank, that should give me an edge because I know how these things work. And the game master goes, hadn't thought about that. Okay. And some people who love mechanics that even the field may say, well, wait a minute, I'm kind of shy and I don't think quick on my feet and I'm not that creative. So why does that person get an automatic success without rolling dice? But because I'm not that creative, I get a failure. And so that's where the fruitful void in gaming can come in. So I see you guys having a great discussion about it. So let's go into some of the comments. Drew says, he even mentioned the term in the video, but like I said, years back towards the end of the YouTube RPG Brigade, people talked about it. Yep. And that used to be, for those who don't know, it's been, wow, 8 to 10 years now during the RPG Brigade. There were lots of discussions and video responses, video responses about pie in the sky, theoretical, many of the comments that we talk about in role-playing games would actually translates really well into psychology and theory and literary tropes and things like that. Technically, we were using tabletop role-playing spaces, but the discussions went far beyond that, and I really enjoyed those. Drew says, personally, I still had to disagree with them, since I think D&D is bad for narrative gaming, since the competency-focused rules still push the experience in a certain direction. And I think, if I can gather this from the individual who wanted to use 5th edition, both himself and the other players are experienced veteran improv actors. And for them and their expertise, I believe that the 5th edition would never push them in that direction. Despite the fact that the game does, I believe their expertise wouldn't push them in that direction in terms of pushing towards what the rules offer as success and failure, because they are an improv troupe. The 5th edition rules just allow them to very quickly, the randomness of combat allows them to very quickly adjudicate what the heck is going on to let them very easily flow back into their improv rather than letting the rules dominate what they do. Now I'm sure Worlds Beyond Number and the crew there of experienced improvisational actors, um, this would not be a problem for them. For us armchair regular folk, we might fall back into easy, like, okay, I might not be that creative or that outgoing and not that persuasive, but I sure can roll some dice. So what's my default, knowing that I've got a 78% chance plus success rate on rolling dice versus I stutter when I talk. I'm not very charismatic. People are talking over me at the gaming table or online. Then I would go back to my dice rolling, which everyone stops because that the rules say to stop to let the dice roll. So I could see that happening. Yeah, empty spaces. Okay, Philip. Yeah, title for a song. Say no to pie in the sky. Deniers of reality are blight upon humanity. I get it. Yeah. Mm-mm. Yeah. I'm with Banat here in the sense of going back and forth, right? Like, because he says depends on how you play it, you can reduce the crunch and focus on interactive storytelling. I didn't realize I was doing this, talking about the fruitful void. I didn't realize there was a term for it, but I know in rules like games that I always called it BS detectors, like bullshit detectors, meaning like when you play a game like Fate or some of these other OSR games, very rules light games that have empty spaces in them about how to adjudicate a random, how to adjudicate a one-off random situation with no die rolls. I always found they were really great BS detectors because some people like to game the game, and those individuals very quickly rise to the surface of BS individuals because what they're going to try to do is not play the game and the narrative. They will quickly remove themselves from it and try to go after you, the person, to achieve success, and you, the other players, to achieve success. And so I feel like is this negative thing, mind you. I agree it's negative, but when you play rules like systems and people are like kind of rail against it, I feel like their propensity for that is there's an unknown factor out there, which is dealing with the other personalities, and either that person will get subsided because they're not used to dealing with, socially with other people, or they are dominant, and instead of playing the game in front of them and the narrative in front of them, they're going to try to play you. Ooh, I'm sorry, I just realized this design thing is in the way of the words, so I will put the starships back up in here. Okay, there we go. Or the other starships. So for me, I really feel like the empty spaces help me very quickly get to a point where we can all get in equilibrium. Because remember, having an open discussion about many things is not just between you and the game master. We often think of it like a tire spoke on a bicycle, where there's just one person in the middle, and the only interaction is with you and that person in the middle, which is the game master. That's not the case. It should be a discussion with everyone about a thing happening with everyone and going, yeah, I think that makes sense. But I also think this other thing. Um, it also made. I also found, side note, there's a place here called Half Price Bookstore, and I found another. I purchased another set of a game that I already own. I don't know why I did it. Called Everway. That is a diceless role playing game. Back Jonathan Tweet created it back in the 90s, and the 25th silver anniversary version of it came back out, which I on Kickstarter, which I did back, and I got that one as well with the new cards and new artwork and everything. But that is a game that is very that also has um, a a dynamic system with plenty of empty spaces, and the players and the game master fill in those spaces with their narrative. Microscope is this way, and there's one called Wander Home game that was just had a spotlight on Knights of Last Call. That also does that with the filling in of empty spaces and such, having that discussion. And I think it's very cool. Drew says the very core is still about competency of the characters. No matter how much crunch you skip, that alone prevents the narrative exploration of who the characters are in favor of what they can do. Um, I'm gonna fight you on that. I don't disagree that the character's competency, like their ability to do a thing, is intrinsic to the story. Like meaning, hey, my character is very strong, or my character has special magical abilities, or my character is a scout and very perceptive, or something like that. But I think those are traits that experienced improv actors could rely on to let everyone know that I'm not just saying this is a trait my character has. We within the game are going to use the rules, the dice, to prove that my character is empathic or magical or extremely strong or very quick or is a small person versus very large, and other things, very tough. And then once we've proven that my character can lift up that wagon, I roll dice. Great. I'm able to flip the wagon over and get it off of those innocent people because it was crushing them. We can go back to the narrative again. So I think their experience would do that. And I don't think there's anything wrong with competency. I mean, most of our greatest characters have competency, but not in the sense of role playing. So a character could, in a drama movie, many characters have a great competency about a thing. It just doesn't flow into what we consider to be action and adventure. So you could have a character whose competency is college education, or business acumen, or empathy with other family members, or navigating criminal underworld in an otherwise utopian community, or something like that. And then we flow back into the drama. So I think it's just about pacing as well. Like nobody has to stop and keep rolling dice. We just decide when to do that, and how to do that, and whether it applies. I mean, I've always used the word uh, uh, accepted expertise, accepted professionalism, so we don't have to roll dice. So if your character is described as being strong, we don't have to roll dice if you say, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to just kick the door open, because I'm going to go, your character is a badass, strong person. Yes, you kick the door open. Hey, we're not going to roll dice, fail, and then have the lowly old wizard come along and kick the door open. And you know what I mean? Like if the point is to get through the door, and the strongest character says they're going to do something that rips the door off its hinges, then the thing happens. And expected or accepted competency, to me, is a real thing in games, that we can just flow past things. Hey, you're thieving, roguish character. Of course, you know where the pickpockets are when you walk into the city bazaar. Hey, paladin. Of course, you know can pinpoint the, I don't know, the religious figures that are standing there in a crowd or something like that, right? Drew says old school D&D that had no rules for skill. That would be much more open to narrative gaming, since that has a proper fruitful void there. And I can see where you're stating that, like, and this is a problem with role playing games, in the sense of when something is written down, the opposite of that is true. Meaning, like, if my character has a stealth skill written down on the character sheet and it exists in the game, then the opposite is other characters don't have stealth. And therefore, my character has the competency for stealth, whereas it seems like the other ones, whereas old school D&D, there were no skills. You just had your attributes, and you basically rolled dice to equal to or below your attribute, which was between 3 and 18, to do a thing. There was still skills, the words just weren't used. So sure, my fighter might have had a 12 dex, and the rogue has a 17 dex, and they both can roll below, equal to or below. But that's the thing, is they're both performing the same skill. Their competency is listed in the number, but it's just not blatant. It's not like it's written down. This is the specific stealth skill or something like that. If I could pull it apart. It says, I think you could do a real exciting low level campaign in D&D by changing your whole approach on killing monsters and collecting treasure. Yeah, the old school was you really didn't want to kill monsters. You just wanted to collect the treasure. So it always benefited you. The reward system was treasure, not monsters. So not killing the monsters, but getting the treasure was the goal. So negotiating, tricking, running away from, hiding, using deceptions like pretending to be whatever, all, intimidations, all these kind of things were you benefited from that because your experience points came from the treasure. And it made it sound like characters were greedy, but that actually wasn't the reason why. But we're not going to go into that. Yeah, Drew says if all you have is a hammer, the skill system, then all the rolls will look like nails. Yep, I do agree with that. Like, and that's why I was trying to take your comment apart, not for you, but for those who are participating. It's like talking about this fruitful void and having a game that has a skill, has a mechanism or doesn't have a mechanism, and it does bring up the idea that if you're playing a game that doesn't have a rule for a thing you want to do, the whole idea of talking about the reason why it doesn't have it might be on purpose for that game to include that so that we stop to have a discussion about it, which sounds strange, but it's that void. It's in profession here in the United States in professional sports. I'm in Central Ohio, so college football, I'm getting to the point. College football is huge here. And college football, of course, we have recruits that go become professional sports players. But as the college football comes to its head, as they play all the games, there is a fruitful void in college sports. You would think in a game where every single player has stats for all the functions that they do in a game, why would there be a fruitful void? Well, the reason why there's a fruitful void in professional sports, in other words, which teams are the best, what ranks should they be, how do you measure one team versus another? Well, you would think, well, why don't you just go by scores? That's not how it's done. It goes by discussion and a committee, and they vote on it and things like that. And sometimes people's feelings get hurt. Hey, my team was better, but someone else will argue, yes, but your strength of schedule, you didn't go against tougher opponents. And then the other person would say, well, aren't all the opponents supposed to be equally difficult? There's a fruitful void in not professional, in college sports that has prescriptive numerical values that are not in question. Yet there's a question in it, and that exists on purpose, I believe, so that we can have a discussion about who's better, what place should they be, what ranks should they be, and that discussion, that argument, even the argument of we should only use the numbers is part of the argument. Caligula says, good idea. I would love to play a character who sleeps till noon. You guys are silly. Drew says, but I have to confess, I've never actually watched Brennan or what the name of the GM in question was. Maybe he can pull that off. I'm a half glass full person, so I'm presuming that individual knows exactly what they're doing, and that the numerical values are in the background. If they come to a door, they're not sure if they can open it. They roll the dice and then they stop and keep going back to what they're doing. Is it exact darkness? Well, anyway, darkness says having that expected competency in a world helps you feel a part of it, as opposed to a black slate character walking into a world they have never been in before. Also high. Yeah, I realize you said in a world. In a world. Yeah, we're just talking about questing beast video, empty spaces, and the idea of a game that doesn't have rules. Cat darkness. Okay. No offense. I'm a person who places the improper emphasis on the incorrect syllable all the time. So man, Shitlord says starting at level 0 and working up to maybe level 3 over an entire campaign. That is a thing, people do stuff like that. One good fight and you're dead, so watch out for monsters. They're I believe the old school Um, oh, don't worry about the typos and things like that. I listen. I understand. I'm not here to I'm not an overcorrector. So you guys are on mobiles. You're busy. That's not the. I'm here to understand your point, not your typos. So don't worry about that. No, we're all cool here. Yeah, and I would never make fun. So don't worry about that either. But shitlords, you mentioned something that back in my day, as an old grognard, there was a thing called level 6. So old zeroth level, first edition, second edition D&D, Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, Beckme. There was a thing called sixth level, which was you get to sixth level and then all the things you got at sixth level stopped. Like you just went to sixth level and you stopped, and then you just kept playing the game. So as the monsters and the adventures and everything got tougher, your character never leveled up. You didn't get more hit points. You didn't get. Now you might have gotten more stuff, right? Like objects, magic items, things like that. But the rest of your character didn't advance. And it was this idea of like, hey, you're just going to, your level 6 character is going to try to survive as long as they can into a 8th level game and a 10th level game and a 13th level game and see if you can push through it. And there was a level cap at level 6. Um, that was it was a house rule, but it was like, it was a experimental, widely accepted house rule called level 6. I wonder if, yeah. Mm-mm-mm. See, that's what I was thinking of. X-Cat, like X-Men. I thought that too. Yeah. You're fine. And blank slates. Now we're not just talking about, because here's another great thing about empty spaces. Okay, so the fruitful void. Now, when it comes to the player side of the game or the quantum ogring of things, I think we don't give enough credit for the fruitful spaces in those things. Meaning, um, like XCat mentions about coming to the game with a character that's a blank slate. Like I'm just going to play Fight Tour. We're talking about fantasy, but even in science fiction, because we're primarily science fiction here. So if I just want to play pilot or explorer or scientist or something like that without any background, that's actually more common than we think it is. And I actually enjoy making characters like that. And then and what I do is I look around the table and I will add traits to my character that are in opposition to other people, just so there's like the very slight friction. So maybe one character is like obsessed with making coffee, and then I will have my character go oh, I can't stand coffee. And that will set up some conflict with that other person. Or maybe there's another character that's like, I'm always oiling my guns. And I'll say something like, yeah, I don't. Yeah, Shitlord says at 6th level, you can still kick ass. In 5th edition, like today, yeah. Back in the day, no, not so much. Yeah. Fight Tour has nothing on Fight Tora or Phytra. Phytra, like Tigra and all the other Tra characters that were in like the 80s cartoons. She-Ra. I don't know why they always had to end with like a R-A, but that was kind of cool. I don't know why. And they always had permutations off of like the main hero's character. That's weird. The comic books did that a lot too. I always hated that. Always making the like female characters to be like secretaries or something. Hated that. So basically, the MUs never got the good spells. The magic users at 6th level, no, because in old school D&D, magic users had they had a sine wave of power. So, or parabola? No, what is that called? Anyway, they started very, very low, and then their power ramped up towards the end of their careers until they just dominated the game, as opposed to fighters that had a very straight line. So in the very beginning, like 6th level, fighters dominated, militaristic characters dominated, but magical characters by 8th, 10th, 12th level were like gods because of the spells that they had. And a lot of, hey, Fruitful Void, if you ever take a look at the spell descriptions from first and second edition, 3 lines of content, maybe 5 lines, unless you got into the very like 7th, 8th, ninth level spells. Most of those spells were just like, oh, you instantly teleport to a space you can see. That's it, right? Yeah, linear fighters, quadratic wizards. Yep. Yes. Thank you very much for making me look good. Thanks, Drew. I appreciate it. Oh man, yeah. Darkness is adding to your character as you go is always good. As for being a part of the world, I'm currently in a Western type game. Okay, and my character has his own house and such. Having that integration can be really fun. Allow me to give you ideas you can steal, which I'm now going to tell you I've stolen from other role-playing games. And the fruitful void of this is something that other game designers, indie game designers, have seen and exploit it for their own uses. So let me give you an example. XCat just mentioned having their own house and integrating into the world. There is a Invisible Sun is the game, and in Invisible Sun, Monte Cook Games, very expensive game, $300 for a big black box cube. Ferrari, it's the Ferrari of role playing games, mind you. Yeah, there is no stealing. I know. There's an homage. In this, I'm going to give you a number of games that do this. In Invisible Sun, the real world is a dream world. So your characters portray characters in a world where outside of them, it's all dreamscape. And every character has a house in a neighborhood. And what happens is every other player gets to put a person, place, and thing in your neighborhood where your house is. So other players get to fill rooms in your house. So you don't know who your neighbors are. You don't get to decide what rooms are in your house. In this dreamscape, you can have dinosaurs and ghosts. You could have giant robots and living plants. You could have a black hole wormhole in one room as your toilet or something, and you could have a magical kingdom with a giant castle and purple clouds in another room inside of your house, and your neighbor could be a nosy halfling and a I don't know, a orb with a dozen eyes on it that have conversations about what goes on in your backyard. It's really, but the point of it is there's a void of space for your character that other people get to fill with whatever they want as people, places, and things. And then the game master uses all of that chaos to fill the world out. What stories can you tell with your neighbors? Why do you have this in your home? Because it's a dreamscape. Is this a reflection of your own nightmares or dreams? Have you taken this from other people and their dreams and put it in your home? Is it, and things like that. So that's just Invisible Sun. There is Mothership and another game called Dive, based off of Mothership, and it is a horror game. And in the game, you have a badge and gain badges that you put onto your uniform. So we normally think of a badge as like a maybe you had a pendant or a badge of honor, or a badge shows your rank. But instead, in the game, the badge is a visual symbol of aspects of your character. So the void is there's something random on your shoulder or a tattoo. In Dive, instead, in Dive, it's deep sea diving, and you have a tattoo. And they give examples of different types of ways to make tattoos, and whatever that tattoo is tells you what your character is like. And I love the idea of like pulling it is a description, and none of us know what that description means, but we start putting meaning to that description. And that's what I feel a fruitful void is. We don't know what the void is, but we start adding details to it within the narrative of the game. And then as we keep building on the narrative that's happening within the game, whether it's that weird tattoo on your shoulder or this badge you had from your military service, and why is an eagle holding on to a spear with a storm cloud in the back, Well, it has this meaning for my character. I cherish freedom, and I like to be first in battle. That's why I have a spear. And the storm cloud is I'm suffering through trauma. My character has flashbacks of trauma or something like that. So yeah. Arbit of Worlds does a great video about the linear fighter and the quadratic wizard. Yeah, and unfortunately, that's been done away with because you only experience that if you play if characters go from zero to hero, you'll get to see that progression. But if you play the smaller the section of time, the less you see that, and then the play experience becomes far more negative for the wizard in the early days, and then far more negative for the martial characters in the later days. So the experience of playing that when you shrink that time down, people complained about it because the time shrinkage, and so they changed it. So they made everybody equal. My character in that game is a tabaxi in his 90s called Crow. Oh, cool. Who's lived a long life as an adventurer and monster hunter. I've purposely left a lot of room for my DM to put things into his collection of stuff over the years. And sometimes we should do a series of videos about like best practices or what players should do. And one of those is when it's the backstory conundrum. Sometimes players will come with like a 8-page, single line, double-sided backstory that no one's going to. It's like 5,000-word essay, and no one's going to read that. Or a player comes with a backstory that they don't want anyone to f with. And as a game master, I'm like, well, then why play the game? Write a novel, right? Write a short story about your character. But if you're going to come with a backstory that I can't use as fuel for storyline, then why bother doing it? And I think sometimes we misinterpret role-playing games, and it fills our psychological need for acceptance and being proud, because in our normal lives, a lot of us have normal lives that suck, and so we can be big ass heroes in these stories. And so sometimes we'll write things down and we don't want people to fuck with it, right? And but that's actually not a good practice. XCat does mention a thing like, listen, I left a lot of space so it can be filled in. And I like that. Like, I love characters that have connections to worlds, financial, through family, through background, through trauma, through strange adventures. Han Solo is a good example of I'm a smuggler and everybody knows me, kind of, sort of. And then you could fill in the blanks, right? Like, is he really a good smuggler, or what kind of enemies did he have? Answering that, they should have never answered the question, should have never done a Solo movie. And unfortunately, the ones who love the empty spaces are in conflict with the people who want to fill in every empty space. I got to know their background. I need to know the answer. And oftentimes the answer is never as good as the thing you have in your head, Yeah. Yeah, Drew. I see there. See, that's the other the reason why some players hold so tight to their background, because Drew says, well, better be nice to me. Otherwise, I would use your character's neighborhood as landfill of bad ideas. Landfill. I'm just imagining like the proverbial beep, beep, beep in a dump truck, and there's some faceless person going, guiding the truck back, and it's just a bunch of bad ideas just getting filled in after like I don't know, strip mining away your neighborhood and is dumping all the stories there. Yeah, I see XCat, you're probably a DM or a GM. Because what you're saying, because the path you're taking about filling those voids and having hooks and things like that. Yeah. You definitely, if you're not, definitely. Yeah, landfill gases are a valuable source of renewable energy. I always wondered about that, about using trash and landfill, stuff like that. Mainly a player, but I love DM theory. Wow, you're like a unicorn. In a good way, in a nasty way too. Yeah, dirty way. Yeah. You'll be fine. If you have that mentality, you'll be fine. Let's yeah. Unless you're playing with a bunch of assholes, you'll be perfect. Don't listen. I'm an old dude, right? I'm 50, almost 54. So I can dare say I've been playing role playing games at least 40 years, and the nervousness has never gone away. So yeah. Yeah, these are the powers you gain from starting or standing into the void. Definitely. Oh no. Oh no, shit lords. Here we go. No, 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 don't go there. Don't go down that pathway. All right. So um let me give you guys an example of a void that I have, because I we're supposed to be talking about Obsidian Star, kind of. And so here's a void that I have in this game that I didn't realize I was doing it, but then once I realized I was doing it, I was like, it actually makes sense. So in Obsidian Star, there are no true the stats are not strength, dex. It that doesn't exist in this game. And and the reason for that is because I didn't want that to be a measure of how good the characters are. We're going to map for a setting of a building while you know what, we suffer from world builders disease over here too, so don't worry about that. So you're fine. World Builders Anonymous. We're here. So I just wanted to point out, I'm not going to share this too much because you guys already seen this plenty of times, and for those who haven't seen it, relax. I will put the I'll put the link to it. Let's see. Let me get the copy of the link, and here I'll share it out. But I wanted to make a point that in the game, I didn't want there to be a necessity for characters to be strong, fast. Like I didn't want a dump stat. Instead, I wanted it to be closer to why are you doing something, how are you doing it, and allow the narrative to fill that space. Man, that looks very close. I wanted the narrative to fill the space of, hey, if you are sneaking into a place, you're trying to convince someone, you're having conversations with family and friends and lost loved ones, you are going into contract negotiations socially, you are exploring uh, alien in our own solar system worlds like moons and comets and gaseous planets and things like that. I didn't want it to be, well, my character has a high dex. So, you know, when performing anything, you're going to have to pick one of these 6 approaches to how you are doing the thing. And there is some overlap. So there is a little bit of the conversation to happen. Hey, if I'm being careful and if I'm doing something carefully or subtly, isn't that the same thing? And the argument can be made both yes and no. And I feel like the success or failure of the character, or the yes, no, if, and, or, but, the partial successing, right? The yes, no, if, and, or, but of the results give us the power to fill in the void, the fruitful void of, well, what really happens? You know me, I always go with the locked door, right? You got your sci-fi locked door. I've got a little computer pad, or I want to rip the panel off and try to open it up. I want to do it carefully or subtly, and then I get a mixed result. I both succeed, but then there's a complication. What the hell happens? Does the door open, but a silent alarm goes off? Do I get the door open, but then it stays open and I can't close it when I want to close it? Do I open this door, but 2 other doors open that I don't see that release some kind of gas or, I don't know, xenobiological danger or something? Does the door not open, but now I know how to open it, but I don't have the tool to open this door right now? I've got to go somewhere else to get a thing that will automatically allow me to open it, but right now I can't open this thing, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just coming up with uh, possibilities to explain a partial success. And explaining that partial success is always a one-off in a lot of games, like the Powered by the Apocalypse games, Fate, Blades in the Dark, which is basically the same thing. And a lot of indie games have like these partial successes. It's like yes, no, and then yes, but something else, right? Hey, I get into the door, But when I get into the room, the thing I really want to go after has double locked, and a blast door went over top of it. Damn it, we did get in the room, but we need to get into that vault, and now the vault has a timer on it, and that when the timer goes off, it'll destroy everything inside the vault, right? That kind of thing. So anyway, just wanted to show off some things here. So a system that reflects personal choice more than physical ability, yes. Yeah, this Doors example is giving me Stargate energy. Yeah. The game is more about choice, um, personal choice rather than physical ability. Now there is when in the game you do have there are traits that give you can use traits to give you benefits based on your physical, mental, and social ability. So you can have a trait that says strong, quick, graceful, alluring, um, vigilant, uh, char. Oh man, charming, enduring, tough. Those are traits that you can have down here, and that's where this part comes in with the big hexes. All these things are called pockets, and the things in your pockets are traits using natural language that we write to fill in those pockets. So when I say natural language, the natural language is what you write down. So it could be mountain climber, or you could write what's something similar to mountain climbing? Mountain climber, free runner, parkour, acrobat, um, uh, cat-like balance. Let's see. I don't know. I have the skill of a monkey, or whatever the case may be. Right? You could write that down, and that fills in these little hexes, and then three of them together, three of them together can be protected by armor. That's what this little smaller hex bolt is in the corner, and you check mark that down with armor, so your armor protects those traits. So everything you write down in the hexes is equivalent to one, in another game, 1 hit point. So if you suffer 5 loss in this game, not just damage but loss, so if you suffer 5 loss, you lose access to 5 of the things that you've written down. So what you are, what your character is about, are your hit points. And personality traits, where you've been, things people equipment you carry, all of that is written down in here, in your pockets. And so all the good things that add to your character, and everything written down gives you a bonus of +1, and the maximum is a +3. So guess what? I have cat-like balance. I also have mountain climbing gear, and I grew up on Olympus Mons on Mars, which is tallest mountain in our solar system. So if I have all these 3 things written down in my pockets, I can get a +1 for each one, a +3. I add it to using my careful or subtly approach, so I get a benefit for that. But if I suffer a loss, getting shot with a blaster bolt or having an argument with my grandmother, uh, if I suffer 5 loss, then I lose access temporarily to those 5 things. And then narratively, we can discuss how that happens. Well, getting shot with a blaster bolt is a physical thing. Maybe it's because I got shot in the hip and it hurt my leg. That's why I can't climb, or I don't have the balance that I used to. And PCs get to choose what they lose access to. So it's in the player's hands. So it's all choice. So yes, that's how that works. And you could regain those things. And then baggage happens when you roll a critical. When the players have a critical failure, or the other way to think of it is a critical success against them, not only is something marked off, but it's replaced with a negative trait. So that negative trait could be bleeding, paralyzed. This is physical stuff. Burning, ionized. It could be something psychological, confused, tongue-tied, angry, paranoid, that kind of thing. It could be social, hunted, some kind of bad reputation, cowardly. I don't know. Anyway, I'm not going to go into it, but that's how that works. So, where's my brain at? It just farted. Okay, there. Oh, okay, there it updated. Ooh. Landfill gas is too valuable to waste on politicians. That's funny. Oh, that's hilarious. I like that. Landfill gas. Uh, anyway, so let me shrink this down a little bit because it's going to really blast past you guys' vision. So, lastly, I will say about the whole fruitful void thing, and I think sometimes we don't give credit to the fruitful void, and I think we use it more often than a little bit. We just don't call it that. So an example would be in Dungeons and Dragons. Yes, I'm bringing up a D20 or D20 systems in general. We always call it, well, it's a pass-fail system. Yet at the table, at least in my experience, whenever someone rolled the dice and one person rolls a 13 and somebody else rolls a total of 17, we psychologically, through our perception, place value that the 17 has a greater propensity of success than the 13, despite the fact that they only needed to roll above a 12. And so we actually add value to a thing that doesn't exist. It does have a pass-fail system, but it would be very easy to add into a D20 system a partial success, because all you have to do is make partial success anywhere that's 5 below or 5 above what you need. So if you have to roll a 12, anything, if you add 5 to 12, you get between 12 and 17. That means you succeeded, but there's some other complication. And then before that, subtracting 5. So that means anything from what, 7 to 12, you have like failure, but something else happens, like failing forward or succeeding with the cost, and you start adding that into the game. And I think it would be very, very easy. Now, it might be a little bit of math, and it would slow play down because while we fill in the void of what the hell's going on, in terms of explaining the very things that are going on. So that might be an issue for some players. And also pacing, right? Do we really want to engage in every single die roll with a partial success and failure? Or do we just want to know pass, fail, and then move on? And so in this game, in Obsidian Star and some other games, it is written into the rules that the players can choose which dice to roll. 2 dark dice, a light and a dark die, or 2 light dice. And the light die result means that we're going to ignore the partial success and failure aspect of it. Hey, I want to unlock the door. I really don't want complications, good or bad. I just want to unlock the door. I'm going to roll 2 light dice, so there's 100% chance there won't be these other problems and issues that crop up. Whereas maybe I want to unlock this door to possibly grant me the ability to unlock all the other doors that are like it. Or I unlock this door and I'm able to now control all the other doors similar to it so that I can close the door behind me when maybe a big bad is approaching or something like that. Or when I go on this other starship that is the exact same make and model, that I'm like, oh, well, cool. Well, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to, let me do this live because I forgot to update this. And so that's essentially shit. I didn't mean to do that. What the hell? Sorry. All right, guys. So thank you very much for helping me out with this. I really appreciate it. I mean, there is a ooh, will this fit? Maybe not. There we go. Maybe not. That looks really bad. Maybe I'll change the order of this, even though it's not alphabetical. There we go. All right, we're done. Sorry. Sorry, it was bothering me a little bit. Baggage from no cookies. Yeah. Failing forward. I like that idea. Yeah, failing forward is the okay. success with complication and failing forward happens a lot in our television and movies, a whole lot. And one idea about failing forward is that, okay, sorry, I got distracted. XCat says there are a few features in D&D that have a bonus trigger if you pass or fail by 5, which I always wondered why that wasn't expanded upon. The thing that first comes to mind in fantasy in a D20 is the Medusa in 5th edition. So in 2014, I guess you could call it D&D 14, that's in the public domain. In 5th edition, if a Medusa gaze affects your character, there is a difference between making a saving throw within 5 or above 5 of the DC. And I wondered why they didn't expand that out into other features of the game, like weapons that have a particular effect, like I'm going to make up something, a trident or a whip or some kind of chained weapon that not only hurts but also grapples you if you make a roll above the AC of your opponent or something like that, or a spell that, like, oh, I charm you, but if it's 5 above, not only do I charm you, you don't realize that I'm the one that charmed you, right? Like, you could put those things. And so going into the comment that you made, Caligula, you said failing forward. I like that idea. Many of our great heroes in adventure, and I'm going to get to what you have to say there, Hunt. Our heroes succeed, but there's a complication. So an example is, I want to open up the vault because there's a secret MacGuffin inside. Computer chip, thumb drive, spy heist thing. You know what I'm talking about. When they open up the thing to get the thing, what happens? They actually get the MacGuffin. Most of our heroes, they succeed. I undo the lock. James Bond, Bourne Identity, any other heist thing. I grab the thumb drive. I've got it in my hand. What happens? Alarms go off. Door shuts, and now they're trapped in the vault. A guard shift happens, and there's more guards on alert. I literally grab the thumb drive, but now I realize that there's 2 other thumb drives, and I don't know which one is the correct one. Or I grab the thumb drive and don't realize, as the camera zooms in, that there's a little blinking light on it, and it's being tracked, and it might track me back to my allies that's waiting in a white panel van outside the building. And now the black helicopters are now following me, i.e. the game master now has a reason to say, well, you didn't really succeed, because now I'm going to complicate your life. So failing forward is I jump across the building from one rooftop to another, and I'm dangling by my fingertips. Does that mean the enemies that are coming after me get to shoot at me and get off some opportunity attacks because I'm dangling from the roof? Maybe. Was I a badass and jumped all the way across the roof? Did a tumble roll and kept running without slowing down? No, I didn't. And so failing forward, or success with a failure, in a lot of indie games, which it actually exists in Dungeons and Dragons. If you ever read the Dungeon Master's Guide, there's a rule it's an optional rule, but there's a rule in there about failing forward or success with complication. And yeah, I like that. And also, let's be honest, many times we even feel like the narrative should say something like that, but we don't include it. For example, I use failing forward, success with complication when it comes to Dungeons and Dragons, because there are no rules for putting a harpoon or arrow through a flying creature's wing, or lopping off a dangerous spiked tail of a wyvern, or blinding a creature by throwing a tapestry over its head, or stunning a creature by slamming in the back of the head with a stone. Or there are no rules for that, not specifically, unless you have the feat or you have this thing. Me, I'm like, damn, you rolled an 18, something special happens in this attack, right? Or you were sneaking or blah, blah, blah. You rolled this. Guess what? You don't have to keep making rolls for your climbing check. You rolled a crit 20. Yeah. You just don't even worry about. Everyone else has to make rolls. You got a crit 20, you know where all the handholds are at, right? Is that kind of thing. Darkness says, I've also heard some people throw around a rule called taking 10. Something you might complete as an action can be done with or without a roll, but at the cost of time. Well, there is that rule, and it's in Pathfinder and existed before Pathfinder, but before even that existed, the point is it necessary for you to make a die roll at all? If not, what are the capabilities of the character? If the capabilities of the character, the competence, I'm looking at you, Drew. If the competency of the characters is high enough, and we all agree that it's high enough, then you just do the thing. That's what taking 10. Yep, and taking 10, was it 3.5 or 3.x? Yep. Taking 10 is just which long before taking 10 happened, at least a good 15 years before that even happened. It's like, look, your character is a professional in certain things that they do. Let's just assume that I remember being an asshole kid, and when we were very young in my teenage years, where it was like, you didn't say you were packing up all your gear and taking it with you. And it's like, first word counts. And we did dumb shit like that. And it's like, no, listen, I'm a 4th level ranger. There's no way I would ever forget to pack up my shit unless I specifically tell you I am leaving it behind, right? Like, a fighter, there is no skill in the game specifically that lets a fighter know how their enemies were killed. So let's say you're adventuring and you come across dead bodies, but we know narratively your character is a badass warrior. You've seen people killed in battle. When you kneel down, despite the fact your character has a 10 intelligence and even an 8 intelligence, you look down and go, yeah, this person was killed by one weapon and it was razor sharp, right? We make the assumption that's what taking 10 is. And even though we call it passive perception, every single skill has a passive ability. It is, of course, you know this thing about history or arcana, or of course, you know you're being seduced by the barkeep or something. Of course, you know, and that's just what it's just. Why roll the dice when you don't need to? Um, if you have enough, and this is terse, right? Time, energy, resources, um, social clout, and economics. If you have the ability to pull upon one or more of those things to accomplish a goal, then there's no reason to roll the dice. If you have enough time to pick a lock and there's no stress, then why bother rolling the roll? You just take the time and then you just do what you need to do. Building a house. We don't make die rolls to build houses, because even if someone makes a mistake, you correct your mistake and you finish building the house, right? Oh, shoot, I put up the wood trim and it's wrong. Okay, well, I'm going to pull it down and cut that kind of thing. So if you have enough time or energy or resources, or you know enough people, you can call enough people to get a thing done, you got enough money to get the thing done, then don't bother rolling. The most likely reason is 5 is led by a simplicity, and they probably, if it had to guess, held it back for special things, but it wouldn't be hard to add additional rules as homebrew. I agree with you. I don't think it would be any problem with that. I mean, you could very easily apply it to a one-off situation. Hey, I want to jump across the crevice. Okay, if you roll 5 above it's a DC 12. If you roll a 17 or higher, not only do you jump across, but you can move at your regular speed, right? It's it's the slow motion jump, land in a tumble roll, and you just keep running. Whereas if you succeed, but you roll within 5, between 12 and 17, you land on the other side, but you have to kind of collect yourself. So you literally land on the other edge, but you got to, you're like, ooh, maybe the wind gets knocked out of you or something. Maybe if you fail the roll by 5, you succeed to get across on the other side, but you suffer a loss. You're dangling by your fingertips. Something, pick one of your top 5 items you use all the time. One of them falls out of your pack, right? You lose your dagger or your sword, or your shield falls off or something like that. Scribbly Wibbly says, sorry, I came in on the end of the terse part. Time, energy, resources, social pool. Oh, and economics. Economics. So what I mean by that is and I often shorten it to TER, time, energy, resources. So if someone, oh, you're you're very welcome there, Wibbly. The idea is, why bother making a role if you have the time, energy, or resources to do the thing? If there's no stress involved, then if there's no time pressure for the players to do a thing, then you just do the damn thing. Now, we could make the excuse that my not very intelligent warrior can't go to the library and find out the thing, but my very intelligent wizard can. So we can make that distinction. My barbarian doesn't have arcana. There's no way I'm gonna make a roll. While rolling the dice or not, I'm not going to find the book unless we want to be kind of funny about it. In which case, and this is sorry, side note, this is my own little like house homebrew rule that I use when it comes to multiple characters making multiple rolls. One doesn't have the ability and one does. How does the person who doesn't have the ability succeed and the other one fail? And my headcanon is, very intelligent characters are as brilliant as all the other characters at the table. So what I mean by that is, an 18 intelligence, using D20, 18 intelligence wizard is that smart because their brilliance is as smart as everybody else combined at the table. So the barbarian who doesn't have that skill walks through the library and leans against a bookshelf, almost knocking it down, or grabs a book because it has funny looking pictures in it. And the wizard looks over and goes, thanks, I was looking for that book. Grabs the book from them, opens it up and goes, hey, this is what it is. And so, yeah, progressing through humor is a fun way to go through it. Yeah, and that's how I look at it. I'm like, no, the barbarian didn't technically discover the book through intelligence. They found the book. The smart character who failed used your actions to discover the thing. And so brilliant because I can't play a character smarter than myself. But how I do that is my acceptance of the three other players I'm playing with, the hive mind, who come up with great ideas that I couldn't think of, is my intelligence of my character. So that's how I explain it. The opposite of that is, this also allows the very brilliant player to play the dumb character and still participate in the game, right? When the dumb character, but the brilliant player says, maybe we should do this other thing, they are the subconscious of the smart character. Yep, finding the book versus recognizing the book, right? Hey, my character isn't perceptive, right? The classic elf looks out and is like, my perception is so high, but I failed the roll. Strangely enough, I got a crit 1. But then the other character who isn't perceptive sees it. Well, maybe that's not exactly what happened. Maybe the very perceptive character goes, I don't see anything. And then the non-perceptive character says, you know what, I think you're just looking in the wrong spot. And then they get jarred, and the one that failed goes, I need to be reminded of that. I get a little too, I'm a little too overconfident. You're so right. It's hiding in plain sight. Oh, there it is. So the other players are basically the expert capabilities of the people who actually have those. And that's how I look at it. So I don't look at it as like rolling my eyes like, oh, that's stupid. It's like, no. It's just that we're all having fun and we're all socially equally benefiting from each other. Yeah, I've not played dumb characters as such, but I've played chaos gremlins. Socially obtuse red button pushers are very fun. Uh-oh, you're one of those. Uh-oh, monkey wrencher. I see you. I'm looking at you. Barbarians for me, never magic users, because I can't take fake no smart stuff. Funny, absolutely. But yeah, I've played enough games where I'm just like, listen, you as players to me are more valuable in the game than anything the narrative has to say. So your presence is value added. So if I want you in the game, you're going to be in the game. Now, what happens with our players? We will just narratively fill in the gaps to ensure that that damn thing is going to happen. I did an old video on players jumping in and out of games and how do we do that. Side note, Lady Hawk, we might talk about that tomorrow. The lady hawking of a thing. If you know the movie, great. If you don't know the movie, look it up on Wikipedia. But I had a long conversation about why we feel like we have to explain the narrative when a player is or isn't there. And my feeling is, why do we put ourselves through such stress? The player's not there, but we're going to continue playing. Here's why. And then go let's do our mathematical equations working in the opposite direction. What's the outcome we want? Good. Our outcome is we want the players to have fun. Great. Now let's work backwards and fill in the gaps. Not, well, this doesn't fit the narrative. Now I don't know what to do. I think we're wrong. Just use a good dice roll as a stand-in for saying something smart. Well, that too, right? Which is another complication that we often do. Lady Hawk, I watched that so many times as a 9-year-old. Yeah, Rutger Hauer. It had a good little plot too. It had a good little, I liked the little curse that was in there. It was a little chintzy. You know, it had a little bit of the pure magical princessness to it, but whatever. I liked it. Let the bishop be impaled. Here's something weird. Why don't we roll the dice first and then describe our social interactions? We do this with combat. We roll the dice first. When we are presented with a random situation, we don't know the outcome, then we use the rules of the game. It doesn't have to be dice, but you get the point. We find the randomizer, and we use the randomizer to tell us whether we did it or not. And then we go beyond, then we go that way, right? We go, okay, I can't unlock the door. Now let's get back into the narrative and discuss what we're going to do next. Why don't we do that with social interactions? Why don't we roll first and then describe what we are saying during the social interaction, rather than me presenting somehow, some way I pulled out of my ass my greatest in-voice, charismatic rendition of my character I could ever want. And then, for some strange reason, I fail the roll. I just crit fail. I just fall on my face. I don't know why. I don't understand why we don't do that. I mean, I do understand. I wonder why we don't, like, force push ourselves into doing it. Yeah, fun. I don't want fun. This is a serious game. Yeah. For your benefit, Drew, I think I may buy a game called Wander Home, and Wander Home RPG, and let's see if I can get an image of it. Should be, there it is. Yeah, Wander Home. It is a diceless, GM-less role-playing game that is all about the interactions, the society, the social interactions, the fears, the traumas, the joys. It's all about that. Wanderheim? Randomizer, the hardest setting in Jumpman. Is it Possum Creek games in stock. Possum Creek games. And it is a complete world building. How to explain this? It is a complete world building narrative, no die roll, role playing game in which you basically play animals, furries. It is that kind of game. It is a bit of a Fae type world, and that's as far as it goes. The rest of it are traits and things you fill in, and each of you, there's no initiative. There really isn't any combat per se. And it's not about death and destruction. It's more about exploration, both physical exploration of the world and introspection of self while exploring the world, in terms of coming to terms with some of your losses or goals and things like that. it's a very strange, cool game. There's a video description. It's like 4 hours long on a Knights of um Knights of Last Call. Wander home sounds like something for me. Never leave home again and still get my game on. Yep. Um, the other game, Everway. Sorry, Everway is another game like that where it just uses like a tarot card deck. And I'm actually kickstarting another, not kickstarting. I I joined the Kickstarter. It's not my game. It's another game where there are no dice rolls. It's all by tarot cards. The randomizer are tarot cards. It's kind of cool. But anyway, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I absolutely appreciate it. Thank you very much for just stopping in. I talked very slightly about Obsidian Star, which is fine. I'm not updating it the way I want to, even though I'm writing. I mean, I'm developing a lot of stuff in it. It's really kind of crazy, but I have to write it down before I lay it out and such. Even some of the minor things, and I'm already going to have traits written down so that every page of mechanics is going to be the opposite page is going to be the fluff descriptor design journal kind of thing, so people know how to use it. Yeah, tarot cards. What happens when you draw the tower? I don't know. What happens when you draw the tower, right? Let's type this in. The tower tarot card. Let's see. Tarot card meaning. What does the tower mean in tarot cards? Symbolism. The tower card is widely associated to danger, crisis, sudden change, destruction, higher learning, and liberation. It is the 16th trump or major arcana card in the most Italian suited tarot decks. It has been used in tarot cards since the 15th century, as well as divination since the mid 19th century. So, what happens when you draw the tarot card? Probably danger increases, something gets destroyed, maybe something on the character gets destroyed or something around the character. Maybe the character's standing on something or near something that gets destroyed, like a wall or a bridge or a ladder or the stairs. It could be a sudden change, like the weather changes or reinforcements arrive or something like that. It also says higher learning and liberation. So maybe the character doesn't get out of it, but maybe trapped hostages escape. They finally are able to pick the lock, or the key is within reach and they grab it and they escape. Higher learning could be learning a new spell or a bit of knowledge or something. So the tower could mean a lot of things. In Everway, you can use, you pull the cards so that if you were, let's say you're in combat, because combat's a very common thing, even though Everway doesn't really have a combat system, you can then pull the card and go, oh shit, I pulled the tower card. That means I'm probably not going to succeed. Right? It's a randomizer. It's not, you don't roll dice. It's, well, I pulled the tower card, so I'm probably captured and going to be thrown in a tower or something. And so and then that's what moves the narrative forward in terms of the tarot card. So yep. But first, Lady Hawk. Is that you die? Yeah, let's do some more Obsidian soonish. Absolutely. Taste of It says, do you die? Death is boring in role-playing games. Death is boring because it's final, and either you have to make death not final any longer or do other things. But first, Lady Hawk. I love Lady Hawk. X-Cat says, one of the Gremlin characters I played pulled from the deck of many things 3 times, came out 40k gold richer and a higher level. Lucky you, because you don't run to do that with a deck. We don't have that anymore. Deck of many things, a wand of wonder. Oh shit, there was something else. Oh, there was a robe that you pulled random things out. Yeah, no, we don't have that any longer. Drew says, I think Everway used custom cards, not direct tarot cards. You are correct. They were tarot inspired, not direct tarot cards. So they didn't have, they pulled all the major arcana and got rid of all the minor arcana, which were like the numbered cards, and they filled them in with storytelling generating cards that were tarot based, if that makes sense, right? Yeah. But rolling a new character on the fly and shoehorning them in the plot is fun. I agree. You're right there, Taste. I can't argue with that one. I sometimes, and you know what? Sometimes there are players who are like, you know what? I can play this character for half the game, but I'm bored now. Yeah, a deck of many things is still in 5e. I know, but not yeah, but it just doesn't get used unless the GM is okay with the game being derailed. I definitely agree with you on that one. Yeah, it's the derailment part is what people hate about that part instead of embracing it and going, yeah, this is just gonzo. Let's just embrace the whole thing. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Getting a bit late here. So thank you very much for being here. This technically was an Obsidian Star episode, but we'll talk Lady Hawk tomorrow and Friday. I'm not sure yet. So yeah, we'll do that. I'll make a thumbnail and get you guys prepared. We'll talk about the movie and what we can pull from the movie to use for our own storytelling. And I think more so than the storytelling is the meta of it and how Lady Hawk can teach us how to keep playing our games when people can't show up and when they do show up and that kind of thing. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Have a great one. Thank you very much. You guys are funny. What does that mean? What the heck does I'm not sure what that means. Oh, it didn't show up. Oh, all right. Anyway, guys, have a great one. And for those who are new to like Wibbly and XCat, thank you very much for being here. And we go live 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, Monday through Friday. Normally, uh, it is only myself. So, and I am Legion, but I am not perfect. So there are times when I won't be here. For example, Monday, the 8th, April 8th, I will be out of home and going to the eclipse north of me. So I will be filming it and doing all that kind of stuff. I won't be broadcasting from there. Won't be able to do that. But yeah, we'll talk about it. So guys, have a great one. I'll see you later. Peace.